Okay, it's 10 minutes after 1 o'clock. We'll call today's meeting of the IID Board to order, and the date today is Tuesday, October the 8th. Would you please stand and join as Mr. Ross Simmons leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Simmons and Mr. Kelly, do we have any actions taken and closed to be reported out?
No, we don't, President Desert.
At this time, I'd like to have the board join me in front of the dais as we recognize our presentation sections of the agenda. And today we're recognizing Gary Hatfield, Jr. as Employee of the Month for July 2013.
On June 10th, 2013, a Calexico youth was swept away by the treacherous waters of the All-American Canal and presumed drowned. With no agency taking the lead, Imperial Irrigation District stepped forward and conducted an intensive search of the area. Following the IID lead, other agencies soon joined the efforts. Many measures were undertaken and volunteers spent hundreds of hours walking the canal with the hope of recovering the body. A key player in this effort was IID employee J.R. Hatfield, who, with his team in the emergency management section, spent a huge amount of time, even into the night, selflessly looking for the body. For going above and beyond that which was required during this tragic event, the Imperial Irrigation District Board of Directors and management wish to express their gratitude to Mr. Hatfield and his staff for their dedication and perseverance in helping to bring closure to the family of Damian Placencia. The Imperial Irrigation District is proud to honor J.R. Hatfield as Employee of the Month for July 2013.
Gary, you have any pictures? You want people you'd like to take a picture with today?
Hey, that's one smart man.
At least dinner won't be burned tonight.
That's good.
Board, you've had time to take a look at the agenda. We need to take action on approving the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second that.
We have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Galindo to approve the agenda as presented. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. And the agenda is approved as presented, 5-0. This takes us into the public comments section of the agenda. If you have a public comment, please come to the podium and state your name and take this opportunity to speak.
Please.
Correct.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if I'm addressing the correct board, but I came here today because I apply for a local entity migration 2012 competitive grant program proposal. There were some applicants that were declined, or for some reason they didn't follow the procedure. I'm just a little disappointed because I tried my best to do this plan. It looks like there was only one small missing signature per the instructions of the grant that was provided to us. It was mentioned that the proposal needed to be signed. All I want to ask today is just the opportunity for anyone or myself that is in the same predicament that I am, that given the opportunity to correct that small, very small mistake, or if you want to call it a mistake, in my opinion, the instructions were not given in a way that it was easy to understand. I understand that some people did it, some people didn't. Mine is only that particular item. I just want to ask if this is the correct board that I should be asking this to, or if I should be presenting this to somebody else.
Yeah.
This is a correct board, and this is a time for public comment, so this is your good opportunity.
You don't have him give
Yeah.
his name.
All I would like is that you give us the opportunity to submit the correct signature in the right page, and just to treat it as a regular application that passed and take it from there on. If we granted for your okay, if not, then we're okay with that. But at least give us the opportunity to take a look at it.
So if we could get your name and contact information
Yes.
for the record. And
Yes,
then,
sir. My name is Joaquin Osorio, and the name of my store is El Bodegon Distribution in Calexico. My telephone number is area code 760-960-4949.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see if the copy of from the proposal, the copy of the checklist. All proposals have a checklist.
Yes.
Did you have a copy of that?
I actually, no, I just brought the corrected page with my signature just in case you needed that. But that's on your website. You can print it at any time from there. It does request to include a signature. I even called and asked Gustavo, where do I need to sign the proposal? The answer that I received was, where they're asking you to sign it. I looked everywhere. I signed it in the main page in the front. It happened to be that I needed to be in the second page. Just very simple thing, and my proposal was rejected just for that particular reason only.
This is item 14, and I would encourage you to stick around for that discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You want to make that poor man stay here till 14? You want to bring it forward?
Well, there's others.
Do you have any question, or can I?
I'm sure there's
That's all.
others. that
Mr.
have
President,
some discussion.
when we get to it, rather than make the guy stay here to 14, would you bring it forward?
Yeah, we can move that up as we get to the information agenda. Is that information?
Yes.
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 So information starts on items 12, so we'll do our best to speed this up. Any other comments from the public? Not seeing any. I'll turn this over to the board for comments. I'll start this afternoon with Director Kuhn.
Well, I would just like to dovetail on the nomination and having Mr. Hatfield named Employee of the Month. And I sincerely hope that next meeting we can honor his entire team, I hope, because they all did a hell of a job out there. And I was proud of all of them, and I actually went down myself and drove the canal a couple times and I saw the effort that they did, and I'm proud of every one of them, as I am proud of our electrical or our energy department for what they did during those storms. That was a Herculean effort, and that was brought to my attention by Director Benson, and that sure did not get lost on myself or Director Benson, and we're proud of all of you also. Thank you.
Director Hanks,
No comments.
Director Benson.
Can you hear me? I just wanted to report on a tour that I took last week. I was gone for most of the week. It was the Colorado River Basin Tour in the Upper Basin, and it was a 5-day tour. Started in Denver, ended in Salt Lake City, and we traveled through Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction, Paradox Valley, Moab, Price, Utah, Provo, Utah, and Salt Lake City. And we looked at the Upper Basin impacts, not only on water transfers and how ag to urban transfers are happening throughout the Upper Basin, but also the salt reduction program. And it was through the Colorado River Board of California. I serve as an alternate on that. Coachella Valley was there. They were represented, and IID sent 5 people. LADWP was there, Metropolitan Water District, San Diego County Water Authority, and Palo Verde. So I think it's important that we're well represented out on these tours. We met a lot of important people that have connections not only in Congress but on the Upper Basin. And as we go into times of potential shortage, it's good to have friends that look out for farm-friendly districts like ourselves. A lot of these districts have water rights that actually precede the IID in the 1800s through mining operations and other things. And there is the ability to transfer not only in their districts, but throughout the whole West Coast. So it's just really eye-opening to see how big the Colorado River system is, how many impacts there are on the basin on the upper side, that we really are the receiver of the water. I think 70 to 80% of the water starts in Colorado and Utah, and they only get, I think, 25% of the benefit out of the river. So when you say benefit, they don't have the ability to use more than that either. So it is just quite eye-opening. Also, it's planting season, and a bunch of farmers are putting their planting patterns together, and with apportionment, it was taken into consideration by, I think, every farmer out there. And it is on the agenda today to look at apportionment for next year. It does impact farmers and their ability to plan for the future, knowing how much water they have. I know it's changed our planning, and it's changed others as well as far as leases and what's available. So when I'm on this board, I always take that into account, not only as a farmer, but how it affects our community on a basis for farming. Also on the agenda is fallowing, and there is quite a large increase in fallowing for this next year. And it's something that was created through the QSA, but also because of overuse of this district in the past 2 years. And it's important to keep in mind that the valley-wide impacts of that when we have fallowing based on overconsumption. Yeah, we had a great year 2 years ago, but it affects us going forward. So I just hope everybody keeps that in mind as the discussion continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Benson. Director Galindo?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, everyone, for being present here this afternoon. I have a couple of comments. I'll try to be brief. First of all, I would like to join Director Kuhn and the other directors in honoring our employee that has spent so much time attempting to recover the body of the child from Calexico. I personally spend a little bit of time going out there at different times of the day and during the week, and there wasn't one time when I didn't see someone from the IID. I think that shows that we truly work in goodwill, and we're very much in love with our community, and we suffer with our community and want to alleviate that suffering in any way that we can. Secondly, I'd like to share the fact that I have had several telephone calls, actually more than 3 or 4, complaining, politely complaining about the application that Mr. Orozco just referred to, in saying that the application is absolutely not user-friendly. My suggestion was then to seek assistance, and they felt that they were not getting the assistance that they needed. So I think it's something we need to look at in the future, because it has to be user-friendly, and it has to be doable, and anyone should be able to navigate the process. Thirdly, I would like to thank all the members of the Energy Consumers Advisory Committee that give of their time and their expertise to recommend or not issues to the board, issues dealing with power. And I think that it is time for the board to review the guidelines and be specific as to how that reporting is going to come to the board. It's my understanding that several members want to come and speak to the board, and I welcome that. I also think that we should be rewarding the members that are putting additional time by coming to the board meetings, by going to other meetings, by attending conferences, and not reward, but just repay for their time and their mileage. So we need to look at that, Mr. President, and revisit that. I'm not talking about thousands of dollars in reimbursements, but they should be at least reimbursed. And lastly, I was watching a television program not long ago where we're talking about everything that California has been through and how we have managed to stay afloat despite the odds of having such a difficult time, having had such a difficult time in the last 10 years. And lots of statistic information was presented. But the one that just keeps bouncing back, and we seem to either gloss over it or not mention it as and give us credit as credit is due, that California has the third largest economy in the world, and farming has the fifth largest economy in the world in California. And I admonish everyone to remember that. It's what's been the lifeblood of Imperial Valley, that and the water. And if it weren't for the water and the farming, which are married to each other, we wouldn't be where we are. And it's very important that we keep this in mind for everybody's benefit, not only ours now, but those of us that want our children to continue to be a part of this valley. This is very important, and we're at the helm, and we need to become and continue to be we are the stewards of this economy, and we need to continue to be the stewards and remind the world that we are feeding the world. Very, very important. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Galindo. Just a short comment today. Some of the one of the action items and the information items are on today's agenda are related. It regards the equitable distribution plan of the IID water resources. Other people call it or know it by a name of allocation. And I just wanted to let those in the audience and watching the meeting on video understand that how significant and important this is to the IID board and their activities at this time. The amount of time that's going into this discussion, the amount of subcommittees, Farm Bureau committees, water conservation committees, meetings that are taking place, and it is really an overwhelming task that we're taking on in preparing for this type of water management, water accounting for next year. And you'll hear plenty of discussion and talk about it, but you may wonder what we do or what takes up our time during the week or weeks. And right now, this issue is at the forefront of our activities. That's all I have for today. Mr. Kelly, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
So, Board, we're moving into the consent items on the agenda today. We have 4 items on consent. I'll read them into the record. The first one is approval of board minutes for the September 10th, September 17th, and September 24th regular board meetings. The second item on consent is adoption of resolution designating the applicant's agent for future communications with the California Office of Emergency Services. The third item is review and deny claims for damages, and this is claim number 13637.1 and 13649.1. And the fourth item and last item on the agenda, consent agenda, is the approval of the quit claim in favor of the city of Hopeville. You've had time to review the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item number 3, section A, number 13637,
So you're wanting to pull it for...
for individual action.
Okay, so we'll handle...
And I move on the rest.
we're going to be handling consent item 3A separately, and we have a motion to approve consent items 1, 2, 3B, and 4. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion for those consent from Director Galindo and a second from Director Hanks. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. So those items 1, 2, 3A, is that the one you were pulling?
Yeah, item number 3A, Mina Youssef, number 13637.
All right, so consent item passes 5-0, items 1, 2, 3B, and item 4. Now we'll be addressing consent item 3A by itself. This is review and deny claims for damages for Mina Youssef, claim number 13637.1 CE. This is found on page 28 of the agenda. Director Galindo, you have discussion?
Yes, but I believe you need a vote, a motion and a second before discussion.
We have a motion to accept this item to deny the claim for damages.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion from Director Benson, and I'll make the second on that.
Do we have proof that this person's signature is not her signature on this?
I
on this
would,
refund?
if you would don't mind me interrupting you, I would ask Mr. Simmons, on an incident like this, is the bank not responsible?
Financial institutions have strict liability for forged signatures. So she could she should present her draft to the check, to the bank, and the bank will be required to refund the money that was forged.
Okay, can we let her know then? Because I believe in the answer, the response to her, we outlined what our procedure is, but I may have missed it. I don't recollect mentioning anything about contacting our financial institution. Would you kindly do that?
I'll do that, Director
Thank you
Galindo.
very much.
Sure.
Call for the vote.
Well,
If there is a rejection by the bank to correct it, and if we did mail it to the wrong address, I think we
Then it needs
may
to-
need to revisit it.
And I think it's important to know that this is the same lady that was in the audience in La Quinta, and that we tried to resolve her dispute, and then she refused to talk to our people.
Was this a separate disputed item?
I believe this,
So this didn't even come up at that time.
This is the
it
doctor
would
that
be-
spoke to us?
It would,
Yes.
yes, it would be difficult to say whether this is of the same nature or a second claim, but anyway.
But the motion was to deny, right?
Motion from Director Benson and second from Director Desert to deny the claim. Call for the vote. So item passes 4-1, that claim's denied. Moving on to action, we have action item 5, page 38 of the agenda. This is authorization for staff to implement the remainder of the 2013 Equitable Distribution Pilot Program. And presenting today is Joanna Smith.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. Today, we are addressing and bringing to you action to authorize staff to move forward with notices. Let me give you a little background. As you recall, the board kicked off 2013 with forming a water conservation committee. That committee was tasked with revising the existing equitable distribution plan at that time, which was a 2009 version. There were several meetings with the committee and workshops that did result in a revised equitable distribution plan in April. And then further revisions were done in May. Along with those revisions, the board authorized implementation of an apportionment for 2013 as a pilot program, and that was from May 1st to December 31st, 2013. Staff has been working very hard in implementation of that pilot program. There have been several Water Conservation Committee meetings. There have also been meetings of the Agricultural Water Clearinghouse to transfer waters during that time in the furtherance of implementation of the program. As the purpose was for the program, it assisted and identified for IID staff ways to implement and some of the potential issues or procedures that need to be modified or adjusted to have a smooth implementation. This pilot program is the first time that a full program has been implemented, a full apportionment has been implemented by the IID. So this was an opportunity to staff that staff did not have before. So it did provide the opportunity for both IID systems and IID staff and the board to experience going through implementation and identifying what can be adjusted and changed and what has worked through that process. Staff is proposing to continue forward in 2013 with the pilot program, however, acknowledging that it is a pilot program and that there were certain aspects of it and certain issues that did show themselves and did crop up during that process that really shows that we need to treat 2013 under the pilot program differently so that staff can still carry out the pilot program, but then also move forward, and we'll be discussing an information item later today, move forward with looking forward into 2014. So the parameter, we're proposing a set of parameters, 3 parameters that staff can move forward with to close out 2013, but still recognize this as a pilot program and unique to 2013 as a pilot program. The 3 parameters are first, waiver of the take or pay obligation. There has been confusion as to the implementation of that aspect of the apportionment and of the equitable distribution plan. The waiver would result in no person or entity, no water user, being charged for any remaining unused balance of their apportionment at the end of the year. And that would be across the board. The second parameter is a credit to those individuals or entities that had transferred water and received water through the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse does require payment up front. This would provide for a credit to those accounts at the end of the year for any amount of water that was transferred through the clearinghouse that is not used by the end of the year. And then the final parameter is that provided that on November 30th, there is not an underrun of less than 50,000 acre feet, that would require a limitation. If there is not an underrun of less than 50,000 acre feet, so we have an underrun of over 50,000 acre feet, we would not hold to the limitation, but that would be specified. The limitation would go into place in December. But if we're greater than 50,000 acre feet in an underrun, then that limitation will not occur in December. So the request is for authorization for staff to go forward and send out notices to all of the water users within the month of October to notify all water users of these 3 parameters of finishing out the 2013 pilot program. And that would give them sufficient notice ahead of time of the markers and the timing requirements, and they can plan for the remainder of the year.
Mr. President, I believe there needs to be one more addition to these parameters, as was discussed at the Water Conservation Committee. The EDP was put in place as a pilot so that we would all get kind of a feel of how to move the water, how the apportionment would work, and understand the process. It's my understanding now we have about 53% participation or something like that.
Yes, it's
So
above
there
50%.
there were some that decided not to participate. However, everyone was assigned an apportionment.
Yes.
So what we've done here, we've removed the teeth out of this for purposes of the pilot. So we do have a procedure in place. We have developed our database and moving forward with it. However, those that have not participated, January 1st will find themselves behind a curve as far as how this process works. The ones that have been participating in the pilot program are going to be one up. And I would recommend that we notify all users, whether they were in the pilot program or not, of their status of their apportionment. So those that have overrun, even though there's no teeth in it, in this provision, but this program will go hard January 1st, or maybe not exactly this one program, but EDP will go hard January 1st. And I think it's important that everyone be put on notice what their water consumption looks like and what will take effect. And hopefully between now and the end of the year, they will become more knowledgeable of how this program works.
Yes, and I apologize for not clarifying that. That is in the staff report. It wasn't line itemed as a separate parameter, but we absolutely, these notices are for all water users. So everyone will receive this notice, and everyone who will receive a status of their account as to how it is in relation to the apportionment. So we will absolutely make that clear.
Yeah. In the related item on information, there will be a discussion on the proposed 2014 apportionment. And regardless of what baseline is used, there will be an EDP, and the process of moving the water will be very similar to the pilot program. So I think it would be important in that notice to the growers that are in an overrun situation that an explanation be given had this been the 2014 program or a program that had gone hard, what the consequences would have been.
Yes.
Or expectations, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that going to be done on a per farm unit basis? Because we don't need to send out 50,000 letters to people.
We could address it. We have what we've sent out for our mailings so far is we've been sending them to all tenants and all owners that have accounts. So it is on an account basis, but it's to ensure that we have covered any water account holder that we have, which includes tenants and landowners.
Okay.
I think that's very important because that is, in the discussion, that is a major issue. The information flow to both the landowner and the tenant.
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, you have Mr. Elmore, excuse me.
No, I just wanted to make sure that the landowner brought in not just strictly water unit and growers, because, and also, if you could word it that the landowners and the tenants need to come together mutually and not butt heads.
Yes, when I say water user, I mean tenants and landowners. Anyone that has a water account, which includes tenants and landowners.
Let me add to Mr. Elmore's comment. I think it would be prudent on our part to advise all growers, whether you're a landowner, whether you're a tenant, that they should probably take a hard look at their leases. With the way the water is going to flow and so forth, I think they could probably save a lot of headaches down the road if there's a good understanding of how the process works.
Understood.
And
So the
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the pilot with these caveats added to it.
okay.
We have a motion from Director Hanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Director Kuhn. Discussion? I have a comment before we vote. In what Director Hanks has pointed out here about the importance of those leases having that smart language, current language addressing water issues. That's come out of discussion here with this board. That's come out of discussion at the Farm Bureau and presentations at the podium. And I think that, Mr. Kelly, we should work on consolidating a list of those suggestions and then get them out to the Farm Bureau, the vegetable growers, and the collab groups. And specifically, I can think of 3 areas. So I'll be working with you on making sure that those people that have spoken at the podium in the past about that, or the board members that have commented about this, we can consolidate that information.
Certainly, when you get to the informational item on a proposed 2014 program, we will be moving somewhat expeditiously. Our plan is to come back to you after the WCC meets again and your board has a chance to process that input. But on the 22nd of this month, at your next regularly scheduled meeting, we will be recommending that you take action.
Okay, very good. And Lindsay with the Farm Bureau and Kay with the veg growers, so we'll be getting you that information. I think you might have already heard some of it, but we just want to make sure it's written down and being shared. Okay, we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn. Any further discussion? Public comment? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Next up, we have action item 6, which is a request by Committee Civico de Valle for sponsorship of its 5th Environmental Health Leadership Summit. This is found on page 40 of the agenda, and presenting today is Mr. Luis Ometo. Mr. Ometo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present before you. This is a follow-up to a letter that I've submitted to staff in regards to our 5th Environmental Health Leadership Summit. Did I mention my name? I think that was mentioned already. So Luis Olmedo, and I represent Comité Cívico del Valle, which is a community-based organization that has been serving the Imperial Valley residents for over 25 years. Our goals have been both civic education, civic engagement around health and environmental health issues that relate to our valley. This year, we are presenting our 5th Environmental Health Summit, which address environmental needs for our valley. We tend to select topics that are brought forth by our committee, which are made by a pretty diverse group of members, including a partnership with IID staff and others that represent health and community and other civic organizations. What we're asking today is your support to become a partner first and foremost, and at the same time helping be an investor in this conference as well. Some of the topics that we'll be presenting have a good match to what IID does in regards to the Salton Sea and air quality. There have been concerns that do exist now and at a very concerning rate in regards to the reducing of the shorelines of the Salton Sea. And we understand that there's a lot of efforts happening out there that the community does not have access to. And the summit does serve as a platform to create that space, to convene the variety and diversity of stakeholders that are working on solutions, that are working on issues, and that are building their leadership so they can engage in an effective and in a productive manner in boards like this, and also in committees that are seeking solutions and also being part of that solution. So today I'm here to invite IID and again to follow up on that request, and just to provide just a brief background on Comité and our experience in these 5 years. Actually, it's our 6th summit, because earlier this year in February, at the request of residents and stakeholders in the Coachella Valley, we also presented a summit that did cover the Salton Sea and air quality issues, among other issues in that area. But Comité Cívico does have a lot of experience in working on environmental concerns, and we are part of numerous boards at various levels. And so a lot of our expertise has been gathered over the many years that we've worked on environmental issues that concern us. And so, again, I'm here to answer any questions in regards to our agenda. I'm hoping that this is an opportunity that IID will find as an interest and become partners with us. Our request was originally $10,000. That would place IID as our title sponsor. And so I'm hoping to get some of your interest and questions.
A couple of questions.
Yes,
please.
Dr. Glenda.
First of all, I've attended a couple of these conferences. I have the opportunity to take some of my students that are in the medical field, and they're very, very helpful. It engages the young people quite well. May I ask, are you also partnering with the county of Imperial?
Yes, we are. We actually do have presenters from the Air Pollution Control District. We are seeking a partnership with the county, and so far the Air Pollution Control District has made a direct interest in partnership. We do recognize them. They will be part of our agenda. We also have IID as part of our agenda, some of your experts dealing with the IID. And we have numerous partners that are part of this effort in the Valley.
May I ask how much the county is contributing?
That's still being considered at this time. It'll be on...
You request the same amount from them as you did from us?
Right. So what we pretty much leave it up to them, what they contribute. We did ask them for a $5,000 contribution. Okay. And we do have a schedule or a sponsorship map. So we are asking for IID to be a title sponsor. And so we're asking county to be a sponsor at a different level, because we didn't want to have 2 title sponsors. So at the next level, below that. Okay. And just to give you a sense of what the cost for this conference is, an average of $50,000, which have been covered mostly by fundraising that has come from private foundations, from some of our partners over the years, that we have sponsored this conference here in the Valley. And what we try to provide is a venue that would match that of something you would find in nice hotels in the Bay Area and San Diego or other areas. So a lot of our community does not have the resources to travel to those, so we try to bring that to them. This year, the the Imperial Valley College is become a direct partner, and they are contributing significantly into this year's conference. And we are going to be utilizing their science building, which is a green certified LEED building. And so they are being very supportive of our efforts and going beyond, not just by supporting us by with the building itself, but with other services that they would help offset some of the costs that would be part of the summit.
But not monetarily?
Not monetary, not ABC, but otherwise we would have to pay for that cost. And we have in the past, when we've done summits at San Diego State University, we've had to pay an average $6,000. And when we've done it at the this building outside of El Centro, I forget the name, but that was about 7-8. What was that?
Eucalyptus.
The eucalyptus. That was about $8,000, which included food. And we do provide a continental breakfast. We do provide a lunch, and we do provide a networking time and some appetizers as well. But everything is free, and we do try to make this an event that provides all the amenities that otherwise would be found in some of the recognized conferences outside of our valley. So we try to bring that here. The only thing we don't have is the nice hotels, but otherwise everything else we can make happen, and we have made that happen in the past. So.
And you also provide interpreter services, I know.
Absolutely. It costs us an average between $4,000 and $5,000, because every one of our sessions have a professional interpreter, Every one of our workout sessions, breakout sessions, every aspect of the summit has an interpreter, both English and Spanish. So it does provide that opportunity for everybody to be included in conversations that would be Spanish and English.
Mr. Olmedo, can you tell us what the EPA's involvement in this is also? I understand the EPA is one of the sponsors or one of the entities that works very closely with your organization.
Yeah, in the past, the U.S. EPA has been a huge supporter. They have actually allocated funding that has come from some of the border programs that they have. So a lot of their funding has paid for like translations, facilities. As you all know, the federal government has gone and EPA has gone through tremendous cuts. This year they have no resources, and we may not even have a presence depending on what the conditions are of this government shutdown. But the California Environmental Protection Agency has stepped forth and did allocate a grant of $15,000 to help offset those costs. And that's what we're working on. So our major partner right now in government is the Environmental Protection Agency. But they are a grant, so we don't consider them a sponsor.
I see. Thank you. One other question. Do you have any of the companies that are doing business down here in transmission and research with regards to geothermal and solar? Are any of those companies sponsoring or contributing any funds?
Well, we have not necessarily sought out to partner with too many companies and too many interests, and part of that is because we really want to keep it in an academic and in a government and a community-based setting. That way, it allows for people to participate indiscriminately without having any biases to the participation. So we've learned in the past that is happening moderately, and we're trying to do it in a respectful and in a way that it accommodates for everyone, and everybody is welcome. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we send a positive message that this still is a platform where people can come in and provide opinions and not necessarily bring opinions that have already been established.
Right. I would recommend to our board to definitely consider putting this amount of money in our budget for next year. I know that we are limited as to some of our sponsorships, but this is a very honorable endeavor, and I'd like to personally and professionally like to see it continue. So I would like to see this budgeted for this amount next year. In the meantime, I call for the vote.
What
was the motion?
Well, you've made the motion already. Have you not?
No.
Oh, my bad. Okay. I call for a vote as to go with the recommendation of the staff.
So we have a motion from Director Galindo for $3,000 of funding, which is what the staff recommendation is in the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second that, and I have a comment. It is because it isn't budgeted, and I think we have to plan ahead our budgeting cycle starting for next year already. Typically, we don't get involved in a large way in a lot of organizations as far as providing funding for these conference type situations. I mean, I know that you knew last year it was a similar issue. I wasn't on the board last year. But I do think it is an honorable cause. I don't know how much input IID has on our ability to speak or where we are. And I would like to see involvement in kind of some of the ideas going forward related to the Salton Sea. We are one of the key leaders on the Salton Sea. Not only is the QSA a main driver of what's going to happen in the future, but it also it represents part of our area in relation to the geothermal there too. So I just ask that you incorporate us in the future.
And I would encourage you to talk to Mr. Simons over here because he's with the San Diego County Water Authority, and I know they want to help.
I'll second your motion that San Diego should match it.
And we welcome their participation.
Don't steal my thunder. That was next.
Louis, some items you and I may not necessarily line up eye to eye on, but I want to commend you, particularly on your work on the Salton Sea. This is a big issue, a big ticket item facing Imperial Valley. With our Salton Sea initiative, I think Lewis's help is going to be very important down the road, especially if the state continues to drag their feet on obligations on the sea. It's going to take everybody lining up together to prevent some type of catastrophic event at the city as far as air pollution. I'm supportive of this. I like your comments about the county. And if you guys would amend your motion, I'd say 3,000 or match the county.
I will amend the motion as such then. 3,000, and if the county goes for 10, we'll go for 10. Or whatever the county goes, we'll match
the
it.
county is being requested 5, you would go up to 5.
Absolutely.
Up to 5, yes.
Before you vote, just briefly, Mr. Olmedo's been helpful in the past on the water IRWMP. He's an ardent advocate for causes such as this one, and his organization can certainly be a catalyst in the initiative at the Salton Sea.
Okay, so the motion from Director Glendo is to support the sponsorship level of $3,000 or match the County of Imperial if they go above and beyond the $3,000. And we have a second from Director Benson. That's correct. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0.
I call for the vote on San Diego's motion. Second.
If San Diego puts in
Thank you.
5,000, I'll put in 500 of my own.
I just want to close with thanking all of you for discussing this item. I think it's really important to have had this opportunity. Staff has been very helpful and very supportive along the way. And you're here to serve the public. We're here to serve the public as well in our limited resources. So thank you for this partnership.
Louis,
and we look forward to your participation.
You do know Darren Simon, do you not?
No, but I'm here, and I'd be a pleasure meeting.
This is the guy over here in a blue shirt.
Okay.
Be sure you
Got it. I've seen him before.
I noticed he had his checkbook out already.
Thank you.
Next up is action item 7 is an acknowledged receipt of a financial report for August 31st, 2013, page 44 of the agenda, and presenting is Mr. Greg Broking.
Yes, this afternoon I'll discuss briefly the water and energy capital budgets and the water and energy cash levels. So I'm on page 53 of the board agenda. On the electric system capital, year to date, I'm looking at line 7, column B. Spent about $34 million so far on capital projects. The budget is $99 million, so spent about a third of the budget. We're 2/3 through the year, and they're projecting $85 million for the entire year. And on page 54.
Greg, question is some of that just delayed costs on Path 42 and other things, or?
Carl is probably best able to answer that.
Yeah, I think there's some delayed costs in there, and there are some costs that we'll be incurring now that the heats are coming down. That
Now you can take things out of service. Yeah.
get them out of service.
All right.
Page 55, it's the water system capital plan, line 7, column B. Spent about $8.5 million so far during the year. They're budgeting, had budget of $38 million. So roughly 20% of the budget has been spent, 2/3 of the way through the year. They're projecting $30 million, so considerably below their budget, but quite a bit more than what they've spent year to date. And then on the cash levels, on page 59, the Energy Department, line 11, column D, the August balance is $93 million. That's about $6 million higher than the year-end balance in December. But if you move over to the column E, line 11, we're projecting the balance to be $79 million at the end of the year. And the main reason for that is there's a $22 million debt service payment that we need to make to the trustee at the end of this month. So our expenditures aren't necessarily level during the year. They vary from month to month. And October is, because of the debt service payment, is a large month for our expenditures, which will drive the August balance below at year end, or at least our projection. And then on the water department cash balances on page 60, line 17, column D, the balance at the end of August is $119 million. It's roughly $24 million higher than year end, and we're pretty much projecting that to be close to the ending balance in December, roughly $118 million. And that's all I had for this month's report.
Make a motion to acknowledge the financial report.
I'll second that.
Motion from Director Hanks. To accept the financial report as presented, and a second from Director Benson. Any further comments? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Next up, we have action item 8, which is to approve a new policy number 2315 regarding accounts receivable write-offs, found on page 72 of the agenda. Presenting here is Mr. Greg Broking.
Yes, at the last board meeting, there's a presentation on this policy. We received no comments from either the board or the public. What this policy will require is for staff to bring back all write-offs except for damage claims write-offs to the board for their approval. We expect that to occur as part of the annual audit process, which means it'll probably be brought back to the board between March and May of each year for your approval. And it will be, the individual items will be listed, individual accounts and the amounts as to what is owed.
Am I to understand that's for water, power, all accounts?
That is for all accounts except for damage claims, where
Okay.
we get legal assistance in negotiating those or settling them.
And how does the state has a 4-year period where you can go after people, right? And then after 4 years, you can't go after unpaid balances. Is that correct?
There is a statute of limitation, I think, depending upon the type of balance owed, yes.
Okay.
So even though that we may write an amount off, in most cases, we still have the legal authority to pursue reimbursement for another year or so.
Okay. And do we have the ability in your department to go do that, or do we send it outside?
It's both. It's not done in finance, but it's done in the customer service area. So they use both internal and external staff in collecting amounts owed.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the new policy.
We have a motion from Director Benson to approve the new policy 2315. And I'll second that motion.
When you send that out, it's not guys with violin cases, is it?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
I've got a question for internal auditors along with this.
Yes, Director.
Betty, does this policy go along with the additional staff hiring and the work that your office is setting up as far as collecting debts?
The policy most certainly does. We did not have a write-off policy at all, so last year when we presented an audit on the account receivable, one of the things that we did recommend it to come up with the write-off policy. And taking in consideration that this is the first time we have such policy in place, I think going forward, probably in seeing how things work out between accounts, Belinda's new section and internal audit, the new staff that we hired, we might probably come back in about a year or so to make some recommendations in improving the policy. But as of now, it's okay as it is.
So this will complement the work that you need to have done then?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Next up is action item 9, which is funding to Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation for the 2014 year. This is found on page 75 of the agenda, and presenting today is Jennifer Goodsell.
Good afternoon, President Desert, members of the board, Jennifer Goodsell, General Manager's Office. At the last board meeting, IVEDC's President and CEO Tim Kelly appeared before you to provide an update on the activities his organization is engaged in, answer questions posed by your board, and seek continued funding. Mr. Kelly is here this afternoon with an additional presentation and has a few words to say.
Thank you very much. Tim Kelly, President and CEO of the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. I also have a few handouts I'd like to pass out. In addition to that, our budget was requested this morning by Gloria, and that was sent to IID. There we go. As I mentioned in our last presentation, one of the programs that we began last year that we would like to carry on is our business services program, in which procurement is one of the programs that we initiated to help new companies hire local companies. And I think that this has been a very successful program. We have before you the companies that we assisted, and the contracts to date attribute about $100 million of contracts to companies in the Imperial County, and also to helping to retain and expand those companies. As you can see, many of these are renewable energy companies. One that's getting ready to come online, California Ethanol and Power, which we will be assisting in the procurement, and they hope to break ground January. Also, HMC, which is the new detention facility that is being constructed at the East Port of Entry. These are some of the events that we held, in which we had over 1,600 job seekers come to one event, and under the subcontractor and service providers attended the procurement fair for HMC, in which we've had 15 contractors currently working on that job. This is what the detention center is going to look like. This is about a $120 million project. When it completes its second phase, we're seeking the additional funding to do that. At this point, they have raised $92 million. There's quite a few people that are working out there. I want to mention something that's very important, is that we are working with a gentleman out of San Diego, Leonard Steinberg, and we've had several meetings with the IID pertaining to energy and water. Let me go back a little bit, because we met with every department in the Imperial County, including the Energy Department and Water Department. And what we found is that bringing all the groups together, we've been able to reduce the amount of time that's taking in the permitting. There's been some challenges that have come up which have very quickly been resolved. As a matter of fact, one of them has to do with the undergrounding of the Alamo Canal, which was a staff recommendation not to underground the canal, and yet the county was requiring that in the permit, and so it held up the permit, and that was resolved. Something that I think in the past could have taken months was literally taken care of in a matter of days, if not weeks. In addition to that, the request for energy, temporary power, there was a letter that was written to the company stating that there had to be a study completed, equipment ordered, and that process, I believe, was going to take about 180 days for temporary power for a facility that was going to be in operation in less than 360 days. We met with IID Energy staff, pretty much probably about 12, 14 people, and they resolved that issue, and I think brought that time down to literally a couple weeks. And so we're very satisfied with this process, and we'd like to see that continue. And it shows the willingness of not only the staff, but also the willingness of Mr. Stills and Mr. Silva on helping to accomplish these goals and bring economic development to the Imperial County.
Mr. Kelly, I have a quick question
Sure.
on this detention center. I guess we'd rather detain the people that want to work than put them to work, huh? Who were the main contractors? Were they local people, the ones that actually did the building?
HMC is the prime contractor. They are out of Houston, Texas.
Okay.
They specialize in building detention centers. Pretty much that's 90% of their business today. And then they brought in, I believe, one electrician contractor, and the rest of the contractors are local. So plumbing would be the other one. So plumbing, electrical, and the prime contractor are all from out of the county. The others are all local contractors.
So the income from this would have been, or the money that was made from this was in jobs. What about the materials? Would the materials bought out? Obviously, we don't manufacture any of these materials, so all of that had to be bought out of county, right?
That is correct, most of it, and there is some equipment that is being procured, especially later on down the road. It's very specialized equipment for a detention center, but in this case, the county was made as the point of sale, and so the sales tax is being generated here for the Imperial County.
How many local contractors were hired to do other work, say, such as the cement, the parking, the fencing? Were there also
Those would be all local contractors.
all local contractors? Okay. Thank you.
And from our experience with a lot of companies we worked with is that the path of least resistance is to bring your own contractors with you. We have worked with these companies and let them know that we will assist them, but we want local companies to have the first and last chance at these projects, and it's been very successful.
Well, excuse me for interrupting.
Sure.
The problem is that a lot of these companies, particularly Utah and Texas, they don't believe in paying prevailing wages to the construction workers, so that's why they bring their own. I know I don't know if Mr. Kovich is still here, but I know we've had some issues with the numbers of workers that are brought in because they pay them significantly less than what our prevailing wages are. That's just a reality, and it's also my comment.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on the public works and on the prevailing wage in California, even if the contractor comes from out of state, they still have to honor that, and there should be some type of auditing that is carried on by the program manager to make sure that it's happening. There is a stiff fine if they do not follow that.
And that my impression has been that that's not always followed, whether it's whether there have been complaints or not, because generally the unions are the ones to say that their people aren't being hired. So
I think it's important to remain cognizant of the fact that this is a private prison, therefore it isn't government yet. So your argument about the Davis-Bacon is not pertinent to this yet because it's private, and that's how they can do these things. But in their defense, I will say there are many local rental agencies, Elms being one of them, and several. They get a lot of work out of these things. A lot of material is sold to them. A lot of lumber is sold to them. A lot of concrete sold to them. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into these things. But one way to skirt Davis-Bacon, prevailing wage, is a private entity that is then sold to someone or rented to a government agency. But that's not built for the government.
Well, I brought that up because I've heard some comments out publicly about IID and this issue. And even if you have a private company build it and then sells it, if the intent was all along to be built, you got to be careful because you will fall under the penalty phase.
And I agree with that, but this is a private prison going to be run by a private company, and it's not government.
Yeah, that's okay as long as they don't sell it to the state.
Yeah. That's correct. And if there's a contract that's written with state government or with federal government, then they would have to pay those wages. At this point, the wages for the guards is going to be about $33, and that's equal to the federal rate. If they end up taking California state prisoners, then those wages would actually be higher. But 33 is quite a bit higher than what our local wages are.
And I don't want this to get lost on you. 33 is a hell of a lot better than none.
That's correct.
I mean, it's $33 better than zero. So I embrace things like this. I really do. They're not a scourge. I look at them as a positive to the community.
In addition to that, we'll be holding a job fair for this detention center, and we've already been meeting with the Workforce Development Board and designing training programs specifically for this, and we hopefully others in the future. One of the things that we wanted to mention, this was a report that was done by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers on the amount of employees that are currently working at some of the projects that they have project labor agreements on, and you can see that there's quite a few people in Imperial County, 1,401 employees that are currently working at these sites just from the unions. So there's also non-union workers that are out there. And you'll notice that one of the figures where the employees are coming from, City of Calexico has the greatest amount of employees. And you can see the breakdown from the other cities. There's going to be other projects that are breaking ground, such as First Solar Project up in Calipatria, and we expect to see more employees from the north end of the county also working in those projects. Economic impacts, a question was asked the last time about the what's going on with the jobs in the Imperial County, and I brought this to your attention that if we take a look at before the recession, there were 51,000 civilian employed in our county, and today there's 55,800 as we're coming out of the recession. But what's really unique is if you take a look at our labor force has increased from 60,800 to 75,700 today. And so we've had a huge increase in our labor force, and at the same time we've been increasing our jobs here in the Imperial County. In addition to that, I think if we were to take a look at what's going on in the ag economy, there's been a slight decrease in the ag jobs, while there's been an increase both in government jobs and in private sector jobs. So I think that answers your question why the unemployment is so high is because people keep moving here. But keep in mind that the unemployment is figured by how many people collect on unemployment, and employment is kept by how many, they can track how many people are employed. So I think that that's a question that was asked at the last meeting. I hope this does help out.
I would just like to add, though, that I beg to differ and that the reason our unemployment goes up, it seems to me to just remain steady. But it's difficult for me to assimilate that our employment is going up because everyone who lost a job in Vegas has moved down to Imperial County or Mexicali, which is the inference that's being made. I just have issues with that statement. But I may be wrong. I've not seen the data to prove me otherwise. Thank you.
Sure. Economic impacts of what we're looking at here is the unemployment rate. And also in August is usually our highest point for unemployment. So the figure I just showed you should be going down, and the employment figure should be going up throughout the winter time, and then generally drops down around June. And so the figures that we did the comparison on was August compared to the entire year for the other year. So we should see that figure increasing. And so June 2013 compared to June 2012, when the unemployment rate dropped to 23%. And so that's kind of that 23% is a pretty good indication of where we should be next June as opposed to where we are today. And we expect that figure to be going down. So this was a report that was done by Michael Bracken, an economist, just on one of the projects. And he mentioned that there's been a lot of debate about construction jobs, but people that work in construction jobs have a major impact on our economy, not only in Imperial County, but the state of California. And there were 980,000 people that lost jobs in construction in this state, mostly between 2006 and 2010. And so people make a lifetime career of working job to job. As they complete one project, they move on to the next. And I think that our union employees here in the Imperial County will travel, or they will wait for the next job to begin, and so it's a constant rotation of employees, and that's the type of business, the type of industry that they've decided to go into, and they have done it their entire lives, and something that we need to be used to, and we expect to see construction jobs continue over a long period of time, which is something that's going to be different than we've seen in the past. Economic impacts of the Ocotillo Wind Project, $280 million, $400 million economic impacts on a 280 megawatt plant, and the full-time employees, which you see under construction, there will be $58 million of revenue to the Imperial County over the next 30 years. Now, this is a figure that should be pretty interesting. It has to do with the yearly permit valuation report just by the county, not including the cities, and we see the difference between 2009, 2010, 2011, and as of August of 2013, we're at 732. If California Ethanol and Power and a couple other projects such as First Solar, which has pulled their permits but is not in this, we will increase to over $1 billion in valuation of permits as opposed to 2009, 14 million. So this is pretty amazing at what we're seeing in our county pertaining to the renewable energy and other projects such as this detention center, which has permits of over about $100 million. These are some of the upcoming events I mentioned that we have coming up at IVEDC. And we're planning an annual water forum, which we have all the speakers lined up. I have spoke with San Diego Water Authority and with the Coachella Valley Water District. personally about sponsoring and participating in this event. And at the recommendation of Mr. Desert, all the water companies water organizations that are in the southern part of California and Arizona. And the Site Selector Forum, which I mentioned, is coming up February 19th, which we have a lead role in San Diego. It's going to bring site selectors throughout the United States to the Imperial County, focusing on the industry clusters that we have here in San Diego and Imperial County. And then our Renewable Energy Summit, we're planned for March 12th through 14th, in which we will begin with the Salton Sea and the plan that the IID is putting together as a pre-conference and focusing also on biofuels, followed by other renewable energy technologies the next day. So I thank you for the recommendations you made at the last meeting, and we have followed up on all of those, and I think I provide the information that you requested, including the budget that we sent over this morning. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer those at this time.
Mr. Kelly, at the Energy Summit that's planned this coming year, and I believe it's in
March 12th, 13th through 14th.
March 12th, 14th. I would hope that our Salton Sea Initiative would be one or not the one centerpiece of that Energy Summit.
I mentioned we'll be leading with that this year, and how that's going to affect our economics. I think that I was just at the Southern California Energy Summit last week, and there was a lot of discussion about many topics, a lot that pertain to energy storage. But I think that Mr. Kelly, his presentation about the Salton Sea and the effects that it can have on our economy and the benefits it can have on our economy also, if done correctly, was really a call to action for our region that we really need to step forward and support that. So I definitely agree with you, and we will be leading with that topic.
Thank you.
I have a question. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all your efforts. I know that these have been continuing efforts. I was looking at the budget that you forwarded this morning, and towards the bottom of the page, when you have the section on travel and lodging, you have a $15,000 allowance. Does that cover all the trips to China?
Well, we have,
or maybe I'm wrong. It's my understanding that there's quite a number of trips that are taken to China regularly by this entity. I just see that it's maybe that's a place to go on vacation for the small amount of money.
It would include that, but to be honest with you, most of our trips are paid for, or we have leverage our resources to have a lot of our.
I see.
You know, if we were to put together our travel budget and the different events that we attend, it would probably be in the close to $100,000 in travel and in conferences. I just got back from Salt Lake City, and I was paid to go on that trip by Team California.
Okay.
And so we do account for that, but it's not in the budget, and we look at those in-kind agreements that we have. When it pertaining to China, we have 3 projects under construction with YK America, with Pacific Land Development, and also with the Alliance Regional Center and Imperial, and we have one other company we're working with. They have, for the most part, have paid for most of our travel and lodging as we've gone on those types of trips. Okay. And so that's hasn't affected our budget that much. It's really the time that we've committed to that. They are members of our organization, and we support those efforts. And there's about a $250 million investment that they're making in the Imperial County. So
when you take contingencies of people, I know you take people from IVC and other entities. Are their expenses also covered by? I
think it depends, who the person is. There's limitations pertaining to government elected officials. Mm-hmm. There's certain laws that don't allow certain individuals to go, but we don't lead those trips. They're led by the investors, and we participate in them, and we help to coordinate them.
And to the best of your knowledge, are any of our farmers ever invited, other than Mark Hamby, who goes to China all the time?
They've been invited, and actually I've worked with several of them that have shown interest, and they're doing marketing trips already in China, okay. And there's several that we'd like to work with. As a matter of fact, there's a event coming up in India put on by the Riverside Export organization, and we've invited farmers from the Imperial Valley to participate, and I just sent the email to our Farm Bureau because that's very important. International exports are a big part of what we do at IVDC, but for the most part for this county in the agriculture.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Also, on your operating expenses, you have a section under other events, and you're allocating $10,000 for that. Is that where your water forum expenses are come from? Because I don't see a water forum. I see the Renewable Energy Summit, but I don't see the water forum. And I'm thinking, with water being so important and everything that we're doing is centered around water, perhaps the IID could be more instrumental in helping take the lead for this forum, because I can't see what expenses are incurred by this particular event.
It's not in this, but this budget's already been approved and passed by our board, and
Okay.
we have submitted additional opportunities for our organization that we would add to this budget. So based upon the budget that was approved, the water forums, by the way, when we met with the staff of the IID, this budget had already been approved. And the contract with the IID ended June 30th, so we've been waiting to be on the agenda since then, and we've been working with the staff to put a program together for the IID at the same time we've been operating without a contract with the IID.
Okay, I have one more question. You mentioned that the county, that the county's contribution is...
We requested $100,000. Tom DeBose, our chair, made a presentation to them last week, and we will be making another presentation on the 22nd.
Is that what you expect to get from the county then?
That's what we've been told we'd be getting.
100,000? Okay.
And there will be additional things that we'll be requesting as we have other events. As an example, the Water Forum, we will be requesting additional funds for them to participate.
And one last question. Does the mine contribute, the gold mine contribute?
They are a member of IVDC.
I see.
And as far as other funds, I think they participate in some of our other events, but they are a member of our organization.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If I may, I want to make it clear, if it is, and I know there are many people here that fully understand this, but for those of you that don't, even if these people come from out of town, they bring equipment with them. And I can guarantee you they're going to buy fuel here. They're going to buy oil here. They're going to replace tires from tire shops here. They're going to replace batteries that either go out or get stolen here. Radiators go out, they get them fixed in our radio shop. The people that they do bring in here, they stay in hotels. Those hotels are manned by people who live here, be it maintenance, be it cooks, be it household, be it housekeeping. There are a multitude of jobs that are supported when these people come in. These people contribute hugely to the local economy. They rent equipment. They buy parts. Tractors are going to break. Motors go out. Transmissions go out. They have to use local facilities to have that stuff fixed. Don't think for a second that they don't spend big money here, because they do. And so that should not get lost in this equation. And then again, the people they do bring in, they eat in the restaurants. Those people that serve them, those people that work on those buildings, those people that serve those air conditioning in those buildings, they're local people. So it has long fingers, these far-reaching, not just on the project they're working. These people bring in a lot of cash to this local community, and they create a lot of local jobs on the project, but ancillary jobs off the project can be contributed to. Then if we think the unemployment is high now, just think what it could be if we didn't have guys like this guy going out there and bringing people in here.
I agree with you, Mr. Kuhn, and I'd like to make a recommendation here. In looking at your request, there's really three parts to it. There's $100,000, which is to assist in attracting new business. There's $25,000 sponsorship to the Energy Summit. I support both of those. I also support the water forums, but I think we have to see how the first one goes. We've already funded the first water forum, is my understanding, so I would like to make a recommendation to fund $125,000 and then put in the budget going forward the water forum, so we understand for next year how the first one goes, and then looking in the calendar for 2014.
I would second that with a caveat that if the county ponies up their 100.
Either way, I support it with or
Well,
without the county.
I'll give it a second. If for 125, if the county would pony up the 100, they said they would pay you.
Thank you.
I like to make them hurt a little bit.
I'm confused.
Since when?
Do we have two motions on the floor?
No.
Yeah, what?
I need a second to mine, and then
Are you seconding his motion? Because you put a caveat, but
No,
it's
I was
his
hoping
motion.
I was hoping he'd say yes.
no, I think we should just go ahead and new
All right.
new businesses in Imperial County is a customer for the IID, and I think that's an important thing going forward. We need more load for our own county, and the more businesses that relocate here, I think it's better for the IID.
I'll amend my second for the 100, but it sure hurts.
For 125.
Oh, 125, I'm sorry.
We'll let them know if they don't fund.
There you go.
And it's my understanding we revisit then the water side.
Yeah, I say put it in the budget, in the general manager's budget, and see how this first one goes, since everything going forward in 2014, it's kind of out
We've
there.
already funded them 15,000.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Greg, where's Greg? Oh, Greg, with these large amounts of money, did we budget this from last year for this allocation, and will we be budgeting it for next year also?
Yes to both questions.
But we budgeted 100,000, right?
I do not remember what we budgeted last year.
Because if we gave them 100,000, but this year they're, in other words, did we know that they were going to up the amount by $75,000?
Yeah, this is the same.
Energy-
It's the same request. we
Energy
had last
Summit was the same for last year.
Okay, all right. So it was budgeted.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I call for the vote.
So we have a motion and a second to fund the Energy Summit for $125,000
No, the IVEDC plus Energy Summit.
plus
Totaling 100,000.
125, totaling 125. And the water portion of it, we aren't addressing today. There's already been $15,000 allocated
That's
towards
correct.
that first meeting, seminar. Okay, further questions, discussion? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Next up is action item 10. This is approval of the service agreement with Synergy Companies to administer IID's Small Business Energy Efficient Direct Install Program. Page 76 of the agenda. Presenting is Jamie Asbury.
Good afternoon, Directors. Jamie Asbury from the IID Energy Department on behalf of the Energy Management and Strategic Marketing section. I actually have two items in the presentation that's on the screen is for the next one. What I have before you right now is a request for approval of a service agreement with Synergy Companies in the sum of $599,986.30 to be funded from the 2013 Public Benefits Fund balance. The agreement term would be the standard 3 years that IID generally has on its service agreements. IID issued a request for quotation 933 earlier in 2013. We went through the IID procurement process, and Synergy Companies was evaluated to be the most viable candidate for the service agreement. The selection panel consisted of staff from the Energy Department, from Finance Department, from Contract Administration, which oversaw the process, and from IID's Resources Planning section. The selection was then reviewed with the IID Oversight Committee. We did review the selection with the Public Benefits Charge Subcommittee of the Energy Consumer Advisory Committee, and we did seek the ECAC approval for the service agreement, which we did receive at the last meeting. And we brought this to the board at the last meeting for an informational item, and today we're seeking approval of the service agreement. And I would be happy to take any questions.
Who are the principals of Synergy?
I don't know, Director Kuhn.
Are
I
they out
don't
of
have
town?
that information.
Even Schallenberger is president.
He signed.
Page
his-
77.
Synergy companies, we did get a question from a member of the ECAC whether or not Synergy qualified as a local vendor. And I did check with contract administration, and both under IID's old process for procurement and under the new process, they did qualify as a local vendor because they had an energy, or they have a local presence, and they've had a power account with the IID since, I believe, February of 2012. I did ask for that information from contract administration.
I make a motion to approve the recommendation.
I'll second.
Or quotation number 933. I just have a question. Does IID have any kind of decal or anything they put on marketing material? Because I must get someone every month coming by saying that they're an approved company by the IID, soliciting solar, soliciting everything. And I just think we need to make it clear to the public that this is someone that we've contracted with.
Right. For those vendors, Director Benson, that we contract with, they have the right to say that they're acting on behalf of the IID because we have a contractual relationship with them.
Okay.
There are some people who market programs and receive compensation through rebate programs. We don't have a direct contractual relationship with them. And when we see marketing materials where IID, they are led to believe that we've approved them or given a blessing in some respect, we do contact them generally and ask them to please cease and desist. But we do monitor that.
And then looking back at the old small business energy efficiency program, do we have good details of how much power was saved or conserved through the process?
We do. There's an efficiency tool. It's called the E3 tool that in the pre-inspection and a post-inspection is taken, and there are electronic equipment that they place on the metering to make sure that we're achieving some level of efficiency. And we have efficiency targets, and in general, the business efficiency measures tend to give us the biggest amount of that because they're the largest consumers of energy. So we do have a method by which we measure that.
What was the recommendation from the Energy Consumers Advisory Group?
They recommended approval and award to Synergy.
So we have a motion for approval from Director Benson, is that correct?
Yeah, a second also.
And a second from Director Kuhn. Any further questions? Call for the vote. Want to try that one more time, everybody?
Ooh. I think Gloria vetoed all of us.
Perhaps Synergy can fix our voting board. Let's try one more time. Okay, there it is. Item passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Last action item today is action item 11, approve recommended changes to the district's energy efficiency portfolio. Page 80 of the agenda, and presenting is Jamie Asbury.
As the board is aware, the district collects a public benefits charge, and we have a portfolio of efficiency and public benefits programs. The board has been very clear in its desire to expend the funds that IID is collecting, and so this is staff's recommendation with respect to how best to disgorge the funds that we currently have. I did want to make the board aware that what we pulled from this presentation that makes it different from the last is that we removed the low-income energy efficiency direct install HVAC program until we can make sure that what we bring to the board is a fully vetted and fully formed program where they get weatherization. We want to make certain, in response to the ECAC's comments, which were very well received, we want to make certain that what we bring forth is going to give everyone the best benefit. So we'll make sure that they're weatherized. We'll include finance and internal audit in this to make sure we have a very good process going forward. Part of the change in what staff is proposing are increased incentives for the custom energy solutions. As we discussed the last time, this is for large and medium-sized businesses. We go in and give them an energy assessment to the extent we can incentivize them to replace their refrigeration, their air conditioning, food service, agricultural, and controls equipment. Also, lighting is a very causes huge demand on the system. So to the extent we can incentivize them to have more efficient lighting products, we do that. We want to increase the process loads from 9 cents to 18 cents per kilowatt hour, the HVAC loads from 14 to 25 cents, and we estimate the total budgetary impact is approximately $500,000. The reduced operating costs for these businesses allows them to do other things. It gives them discretionary disposable income, encourages local hiring, local sales tax generation, again, as we discussed, allows them money to buy additional inventory, do modifications to their facilities, and it also benefits the district in that it reduces the demand on the system and helps keep the rates low for everyone, including our low-income customers. We also proposed additional funding to our existing learning education or learning efficiency awareness program. We want to add additional funds to this so that we can do additional upgrades to the Imperial County and Coachella Valley school districts. We've had significant interest in this program. They're waiting for IID to approve it to the extent that that occurs because they would like to include it in their budget to the extent possible for this calendar year and next. We would like additional funding in the amount of $2 million out of the existing PBC fund balance. And this also helps them with the same types of things. As I mentioned to the board previously, when school comes in session in August, we see huge increase in demand on the system. And when the weather changes, whether it be colder in the wintertime, cold for us in Imperial County, and when it warms up, we see huge demand on the system. So to the extent we can replace their aging infrastructure with more efficient units, it benefits them and it benefits us. We also would like to utilize the SCAPA service agreement for the Keep Your Cool program. This is installation of energy efficiency refrigeration measures and generally relates to businesses that engage in food service. It helps for refrigeration, more efficient motors, and those types of things. We would like to utilize the SCAPA procurement process and give a service agreement to Energy Efficiency Service or Efficiency Services Group for $195,000. And we would propose to continue offering refrigerator and freezer recycling services through ARCA, and that is also a service agreement that we got through the SCAPA procurement process. It currently is approximately $40,000. We would like to increase it $30,000 for a total of $70,000. This allows for appropriate disposal of refrigerators and freezers that generally consumers have a difficult time taking care of on their own. We also proposed changes to existing residential weatherization programs. We wanted to increase, we want to eliminate the $100 fee. We want to make it free to REAP customers. We want to issue refunds to customers who have already utilized it, who have paid a fee in 2013. We want to make sure that whatever we do for customers going forward, we do retroactively to make certain they're all treated the same. For the installed energy efficiency measures, staff proposes to increase that from $1,000 to $2,000, and we would like to remove the cap on the energy efficiency light bulbs that we can give out to consumers. And I did want to make the board aware that Director Galindo had asked for information about what we've done in terms of service organizations that serve the elderly and youth. I have that information, and I'll be happy to deliver it to Ms. Rivera so she can give it to the board members individually. And I also wanted to let the board know that we're looking at a program that will specifically serve nonprofit organizations within the Coachella and Imperial County areas. So, and with that, I'd be happy to take any questions on the proposed measures.
Thank you, Jamie.
Any questions for Jamie?
Just a quick question. You were talking about the budget leaving a surplus of $4 million. What is the annual renewal of this fund? Because there's an ongoing...
Approximately $10 million annually. So it's being replenished as we're attempting to sort of
So where does the balance stand right now for the remainder of the year?
If we implement these, I believe that the numbers I've seen, it will expend approximately $12 million of what we have now. So it'll still leave a surplus, but we'll continue to incentivize and increase the efficiencies measures that we're passing along.
Okay. But then next year we're going to have to cut back because we can't keep up at that rate, right?
At this rate, by 2015, we'll have to really be careful. We'll have to reevaluate.
That's a better problem to have. The board's been very interested in. I think Ms. Asbury called it disgorging.
Yes.
And so I commend the public benefits section and Ms. Asbury for speeding up this process in what is a marked change for public benefits.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations to change the energy efficiency public programs.
I second that, Mr. President.
So we have a motion from Director Benson and a second from Director Galindo to approve the action item 11. Approve the recommended changes to the district's energy efficient portfolio. Any other questions or discussion? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. That's all for action today. We're going to take a short 5 to 10 minute recess, and we'll come back and take care of the information section of the agenda.